Let's talk about setting the gain structure on the DM series mixers. All the DM series mixers have a little gauge on the input gain page where you're looking at input. You're going to see a little graph like this. It'll either be vertical as it is on the activity page, or it may be horizontal as it is on the input gain stage, depending on the model, where it'll show -40, 0 dB, and +20. And what you are looking for is this one right here. You want to set the input gain so that when someone is talking at or a signal is being generated at that input that is typical for whatever kind of input that is, you are getting a signal around 0 dBu. And it's very easy to do. All you do is just keep cranking the gain until it starts bouncing around near 0 dBu. There's a couple of ways you can do that. One is by simply using an acoustical noise generator of some type, something that makes a volume of sound, a steady volume, like a pink noise or a tone, and you set it up so it's about 65 decibels at 3 feet. And you set it 3 feet away from your microphones or 4 feet, whatever the operational distance happens to be, and get a signal into the microphone. And then there's the other way. Take the new guy you just hired and have him sit at the microphone and read from a newspaper until you get his voice bouncing the meter right here. If it's a CD player or if it's a other type of multimedia source, set up a signal into that. Bring your favorite CD and play it into the system until you get 0 dB. Now, let's look at those structures. For example, on different systems, different signals require different amounts of gain. Microphones. Close held, handheld. A close held mic is something where they're holding the microphone right up to their mouth. You might want to set at about 40 dB of gain. If it's a boundary layer microphone sitting on a table and pushed pretty far back, you'll probably need to be at a table mic, we'll call that. Helps if I spell it right. Table mic. You'll probably need 55 decibels of gain on it, or better, depending on the sensitivity of the microphone. And you need to understand that microphones, even within the same model, within the same brand, can vary by as much as 10 decibels in their sensitivity. If you read the specifications, it usually gives a sensitivity rating, and it'll usually say X number of microvolts at such and such sound pressure level, plus or minus 5 dB. That means within the same box of microphones, you could have as much as a 10 decibel difference. So don't be surprised if you have to set one microphone at 45 and another one at 55, or one at 50 and another at 60, and then all the others tend to be in the between. Don't be surprised by that. Set each source according to its level. So, and if it's a ceiling mic, which we don't like, but we know you have to deal with sometimes, all the gain that we've got. Typically, most of our products give a maximum of 60 decibels of amplification. Ramp it all the way up because they're so far from the microphone, you're going to need every bit of gain you can capture. Remember that the gain structure and the microphone inputs is independent of feedback. It does not affect feedback. What affects feedback is your amplification level at the amplifiers. And it's going to be the same. You're going to get feedback at the same level whether you set this at 20 decibels or you set this at 60 decibels, because what happens is you turn up the amplifier more if you have less sensitivity in the microphone. Your signal to noise is compromised. It's a noisier, hissier sound, and you're still going to go into feedback at the same sound pressure level, regardless of the input or output level. You can experiment with that by simply setting up a system and set a microphone at 30 decibels of gain and put a noise source next to it and turn up the amplifier until feedback begins to occur, and then measure the level of the noise in the room that's being amplified. It'll give you a level like 65 decibels. Then turn up the input gain of the microphone to 60 decibels, turn the amplifier off first or turn it all the way down, then turn the amplifier back up slowly, and you'll find that, sure enough, it'll give you feedback at exactly the same sound pressure level within the room. All right, what about other sources? Multimedia. Well, multimedia sources can be things like consumer products, DVDs, VHS recorders, and the rare cassette deck now. But those typically have an output level of about minus 10 dBu. So that means you need to give it plus 10 on the input side, typically. Again, put in a CD and play it, and a soft CD, something that's a little low, would be the right one to use because you want to maximize that. Remember, you've got 20 decibels of headroom at 0 dBu of input level. So you want to use something that's a kind of a soft level. When you're testing the microphones, don't sit in front of them and robustly go, test 1, 2. Talk like someone who's typically going to be in that room. Usually it's an untrained, non-professional person who has no concept of what microphones do, and they'll talk in a normal, softer voice. So they'll talk loud enough for the closest person to them to be heard. On professional equipment, professional audio equipment, such as mixing consoles, where it might be as much as plus 8 on their outputs, and if you're bringing that into the processor, well, then you might want to set the level to minus 8 so that it equals 0. Everything you want to get is on the meter at 0 dBu. If you get all the products participating at 0 dBu, and that includes the DMTH4, our conferencing hybrid, you want that incoming telephone line signal to try to come in at 0 on the meter. It's not going to clip until it gets up to plus 20. So even if you maximize your level on the control, you're not going to get clipping until it hits beyond minus 20. And with 20 decibels of headroom, that isn't going to happen. If you're worried about that, you can apply a compressor to the input, and that's another segment.